Welcome to the MeidasTouch Podcast. Ben, Brett, and Jordy fighting for democracy with you each and every pod. We've got an incredible podcast for you. Our guest, chairman of the Democratic National Committee. You heard that right. Chairman of the Democratic National Committee.
Who I think it's going to be?
Is in the building. Jaime Harrison will be.
Let's go.
Got a lot of questions to ask Jaime. I want to know Jaime's reaction. I don't think he's publicly responded or reacted to the legitimate political discourse statement by the Republican National Committee. They issued a formal resolution. The Republicans did. They issued a formal resolution where it has like whereas clauses. This was a contract.
Yeah, this
resolution.
wasn't a slip of the tongue of Marjorie Taylor Greene calling it the Gazpacho police. This was thought out, written down, reviewed, approved, and put out there for the public to see.
The formal resolution of the Republican Party calling January 6th legitimate political discourse. Legitimate political discourse. And what makes this extra just shocking, although nothing shocks me with them, though, is, well, this is what shocks me, that they even write words. Like, these are not people who even can have the capacity or care or concern to even write resolutions. You'll recall the Republican platform during the 2020 election, when you're supposed to release detailed platforms about what you're doing for the American people. Recall their platform was literally whatever Donald Trump says. That's not a joke. They didn't have a platform. It was just, we defer to Donald Trump. We defer to our dear leader, Donald Trump. But here, the first time they prepare an actual resolution with words in it, what they type is that January 6th terrorist attack was a legitimate political discourse. And now you have Republicans like Kevin McCarthy being asked about it, literally running away. He looks like Luigi from Mario Kart. Woohoo, get out of here. Woohoo. Woohoo. Right? Get out of here. That's what it looked like.
I've never seen the guy run so fast in my life.
Looked like a video game. It was
training
unbelievable.
for the Olympics over there.
It's wild. So we're going to ask Jaime Harrison about that.
And let me tell you this, Ben. I know for a fact Jaime hasn't responded or made a public comment yet on this political discourse comment. So we'll get the exclusive on that one. I'm excited to have the drop on that.
And Jordy, I'm seeing that green background you got back there, kind of reminding me of the cucumbers I like to slice in my gazpacho.
Exactly. Yo, what was that?
That was Marjorie Taylor Greene being Marjorie Taylor Greene, referring to, she said that the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi have sent the Gazpacho police. Just play the clip.
Right. Not only do we have the DC jail, which is the DC gulag, but now we have Nancy Pelosi's Gazpacho police spying on members of Congress, spying on the legislative work that we do, spying on our staff, and spying on American citizens that want to come talk to their representatives.
So, Brett, what was she actually trying to say then?
I mean, I assume she was trying to... First, let me address like the actual content of the message before we just start ridiculing her for this. I think what she was trying to say that Nancy Pelosi like has this control of the Capitol Police, which isn't even true to begin with. So like the whole comment was predicated on a lie, of course. But then she called it Gazpacho. And I believe what she was trying to say was Gestapo, as in the secret Nazi police force. I think that's what she was going for. She went for the cold tomato-based soup. Similar, different, I don't know. We'll let the listeners decide. But, I mean, you cannot make this shit up. And this clip went mega viral yesterday. I mean, she looks like an absolute clown. And then I saw some comments out there that were like, oh, you're giving her attention. She does it on purpose. Oh, why are you sharing that? But it's like, listen, ridicule, stop it.
Stop it.
Ridicule, first of all, is the best way to get at these fascists. Ridicule them, shame them, laugh at them. Also, we all need a good laugh. Like, straight up, that was hilarious. We all thought that was just freaking hilarious. And don't give her too much credit. She is not this brilliant mastermind that's like, oh, I'm going to get attention for my ridiculous statement by saying Gazpacho. She's really she's a dumb person. Like,
she's not playing 3D chess. She's eating the pieces.
She's eating the pieces just like Trump was flushing the documents and eating the documents. She is not that bright. And so, yes, we should all be laughing at her. Just a ridiculous clip. But, you know, it goes into the whole thing. And, you know, we start with Marjorie Taylor Greene, which is a light subject. But it goes into the fact that all Republicans do is lie. They lie, they gaslight, they threaten, and they terrorize. And I don't mean the shit for, you know, our show is normally about current events and the news cycle. And we just brought up a few things. We're going to have a lot to talk about with Jamie, and there's a lot in the news. But I think it's important to talk about personally how it's impacted us over these past few days, because we've been the victim of those Republican lies, of Republicans trying to terrorize us, to scare us. And so I just want to be clear with the Meidas Mighty, with all the listeners out there, as to what's been happening, what we've been going through.
I want to start with this, though. I would say that we were the targets of it, because guess what? At the end of the day, I can take it. Let me tell the MAGAs out there, I do not give a fuck about your shit that you throw my way. It affects me literally zero. And the fact that I know that I'm living in your heads rent free makes it even more hilarious. But what I've noticed, though, through these attacks targeting us, because I've responded to a few of the people.
Oh, so did I, by the way. I have plenty of stories that we could share about this on the show.
Is that this MAGA base, though, is living in, they truly have been radicalized, though, in a way where when you actually have a human interaction with them, when you actually call them out, in almost all cases, two things have occurred. They've either been chicken shit, and they've all kind of universally claimed when they've been called out, oh, I've been hacked. So let me get this straight. So somebody hacked your Instagram. It's actually your Instagram, so that they can then write messages of hate, threatening and saying absurd and offensive things to me and my brothers. They hacked your Instagram. It's yours solely for the purpose of that. So that's one classification. When confronted, they run. They run like their dear leader, Donald Trump, who is a chicken shit, who can't stand up to people. At the end of the day, Trump is the biggest snowflake. He is the biggest of all snowflakes, and he's projecting. Alternatively, there were some people who I called out who were like, yo, maybe next time you come to Florida, we could have lunch. I'm so sorry. I've learned a really big lesson today. Because I even invited a few on the podcast, and of course they've all turned that down because they were chicken shit to come on. I don't want to come on the pod, but like, I really learned a lesson today in my life that was really important, and you seem like a good person, and I shouldn't have said things like this to you. And the things that they say, it's just very weird. It's sexual. It's about looks. It's very strange, you know? So like, this is one person, I won't say his name because he actually ended up apologizing. Kyle Skinner. Oh shit, I said his name. But he
whoops.
Oops. He ended up apologizing, though. He did. And he said that he learned one of the biggest lessons in his life, and that I seem like a really good person, and he'd love to have lunch with me. That's how this conversation ended. But this is how he starts off, just direct messaging me at 4:05 a.m. in the morning. People like you make me sick. Must have got 0 bitches in high school, ugly ass, little brat, and pathetic. And a lot of them involved my relationship with women during high school. Like, that was not an isolated comment from a real person who's got followers. I mean, not like a lot of followers, but, you know, and posts pictures with his family. Like, he was so radicalized. And he posted his job. He took it down. And these people have their jobs out there that they think in their fantasy world, in their Trump world, MAGA world that they've lived in with Tucker and Joe Rogans and all these people saying these things, that they just send comments like that with 0 repercussions. They are radicalized individuals who see no real world ramifications for what they're having. Brett, talk about some of your experiences.
All right, so I'm gonna focus on two, and I may remember some others. I mean, there were literally dozens, and there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these messages, but there were dozens that I actually engaged with at the end of the day. One of them was a concert photographer. I won't say his name, and I'm not just saying that. I'm not going to say his name. But so this guy sends us a message on the Meidas account. He says something like, "Put the gun to your face and pull the trigger." So
Pull it up.
I'll pull it up right now. And so you all see the message if you're watching right now.
Blur it out.
And yeah, blurring it out. And so you see this message. And so I screenshotted this message and I posted it on our Twitter account. All of a sudden, this guy takes down his account, deactivates his account. Then he goes and he Instagram messages me and he goes, "Oh, I don't even know how that DM came out of my account. I would never say something like that. My account must have been hacked." And I said, "You really, like Ben said, like you expect me to believe that somebody hacked into your account for the sole purpose of sending me a message to tell me to kill myself. That's your position. Yes, I actually agree with a lot of your views and this and that." And that to me right there is also a bit of a tell. I agree with your view because that means they know our politics. That means they've looked into us enough to know that. So then, I go back and forth with the guy. He goes, "I keep getting messages. Now I'm getting threatened. And now my jobs are on the line. And I sell photos to Rolling Stone." And I said, "Oh, Rolling Stone. That's interesting that you sell photos to Rolling Stone. I sell photos to this person and I do concerts and I do this and oh, woe is me." And, I'm like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. Like, these are the consequences of your actions at the end of the day. Like, you told me to kill myself. The actions have consequences. You could say that that it wasn't you. I don't believe that. So that was that one right there. The next one I want to talk about is somebody who I will say his name. His name was Dan. This guy, Dan, the other night, I get just inundated with a billion phone calls. Phone call after phone call after phone call after phone call. I think I had somewhere between 9 and 11 phone calls on my phone. Then I get a text message from Ben's partner who sends us that this same phone number has called Ben 27 times. Then this same person ends up calling Ben's partner, then ends up calling my wife and calls her a million times. So finally, I pick up the phone. And this is what I hear on the other line of that call.
Hang yourself. Watch out for yourself, motherfucker.
So if you could hear what that phone call said, he said, "Hang yourself, watch out for yourself, motherfucker." Now, what Danny over here, here's the thing. These people aren't that bright. Is something that is a good thing for us. So Danny over here called on his actual phone number. Not only that, Ben's phone, for whatever reason, literally the caller ID picked up his name when he called.
Because I called him back on WhatsApp. When I called him on WhatsApp, his face, his name, his where he's from
showed up when I called him on WhatsApp. So let me take you through the saga that happened after this. So, I look up Danny. I try to find out some more about him, go to his Facebook page. I find out, I see his whole family. I find out his father, who's a pilot for American Airlines. I find his father's number. I find that his father and him share the same address. Now, keep in mind, Danny is 34 years old. So I was wondering, okay, does Danny live with his parents? Because that would be a little too on the nose here. But let me try. Let me give a ring. I have the number. Literally, I have all the phone numbers right now. I have all the information. I know everything about this person and his family. So let me give a ring. So I call up Danny's dad. And
his daddy.
I called his dad. Mind you, I'm younger than Dan. And so I'm having a conversation with his dad about his behavior. And so I called Dan's dad. And mind you, it is, 9 Pacific my time. So, I mean, what's the Missouri time zone? Is it Eastern time?
It's probably Mountain Pacific.
It's probably Mountain or Eastern. There. So, you got to figure it's 11 or midnight in Missouri. So I call and the person picks up. "Hello?" I go, "Yeah, I was wondering is this so-and-so?" He goes, "That depends on who's asking." I go, "Okay, so I'm assuming it is by that response." Now, I'm wondering, do you have a son named Dan? That depends on who's calling here. Okay, well, my name's Brett Mycelis. I work for a group named MeidasTouch. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Your son Dan has been calling me. He's called me about a dozen times. He's called my brother multiple dozens of times. He's called, and he's harassing us. He's spamming us. But not only that, he's threatening our lives. I said, are you aware of that? Oh, no, I didn't realize that you did that he was doing that. I said, listen, I know you're you're probably like an honorable man. You're probably like somebody who loves your country. Like, I'm sure you're a good guy. And I'm sure Dan is also not a bad person. I know that you're a pilot. I know that you have this great job. Like, I know you're an upstanding citizen in this world. So like, why would your son be calling me at 11 midnight your time to tell me to kill myself? He goes, well, if would you mind if I happen to have Dan right next to me right now, would you talk to him man to man and have a conversation about this? I said, of course. Put Dan on right now. And now I will, rather than recount the story, should I play the full phone call, or at least most of the phone call that I had with Dan?
Yes, absolutely. But I just have to say before you play it, you never say the expression man to man, but in this phone call, you use that expression all the time. So it's hilarious to me now, the origin of that story, that his dad had said that to you, which is why it was so fresh in your brain.
Yeah, it's cause his dad said, "Will you speak to my son man to man?"
In your life.
Yeah, so that's why I went in. So we talking man to man right now, daddy's boy, little daddy's boy living in his daddy's basement who calls me and thinks it's okay to threaten me, to threaten my wife, to threaten my brothers, to threaten all of our loved ones. You think that's cool? You think that's cool, Danny boy? I'll play you the phone conversation right now. And this it goes on for a little bit, so just get ready.
Maybe do like an abbreviated version. I think people will get the point.
All right. I'll do a few minutes of it. You with your daddy? You think you're a tough guy, Dan?
No.
Is there something you want to say? Is there something you want to man up to right now, man to man?
I fucked up.
You fucked up?
Yep,
Do you apologize?
I do.
Are you going to call everybody who you called and send text messages and profusely apologize for what you've done? This is your chance. I'm not mad at you. I'm just talking to you man to man. You don't call somebody. You don't call somebody's wife. You don't threaten them and harass them.
I didn't threaten anyone.
You told me to hang myself. You said you were coming for me.
I did not.
I have it recorded, actually. And so you could either apologize man to man, say you're sorry to me, apologize to everybody you called, take it back, or I'm going to have to take the necessary action, call the authorities right after this phone call.
Of course, I will.
All right?
I'm not positive who I called.
All right, well, you call everybody back who you called. You know your missed calls. Man up about this. Be a man.
I will.
All right? This could be a learning moment for you, all right? You don't call strangers and do that shit. Just such cowards. Like, he couldn't even admit it.
I think he was peeing his pants.
Even admit it. It sounded like the guy was near tears. He was sitting next to his daddy. He sounded like he was near tears. What he told me, so after that, he calls me back up immediately because I told him to call up everybody who he had contacted. He didn't realize that I was the person he had just talked to. So then he calls me to apologize again after that. And he informs me that he works for an organization in which he has access to people's phone numbers and that he took advantage of having access to our phone numbers through whatever database he has. I don't know what company he works for. I don't know what that was. But, he did end up calling back, our wives. He ended up calling back Ben and apologizing. But the fact is, you see how they cower once they are confronted. And guys, I don't speak like that to anybody ever. Like, I don't raise my voice like that. I really don't speak like that to anybody. But I needed to be stern with this guy because he was threatening my life and the people who I love the most. And so you just see how he cowers. He's near tears. And still, after all that pressing, he goes, I didn't say that to hang yourself. I didn't say that. It's like, dude, I have it on tape that you said that to me. Like, the thing is, they are so radicalized that once they see something that triggers them or once they are called to war, so to speak, they just can't even control themselves. They just start reaching out.
It's a Pavlovian,
right?
It's a Pavlovian response. And
Ben,
that,
real quick,
is...
I reflect back on Ben. I reflect back on what you said last podcast, man. You enter the arena, you can't expect to not get dinged. These people decided to come at us, enter our arena, And we don't back down from this type of stuff. I don't care if they're weird incels living with their parents. I don't care if they're these weirdo projectionists who literally have no lives. Like, if they're going to come at us and make these threats, you better believe that we're going to find out exactly who they are and put them on blast. I think we actually called about 4 or 5 different work locations yesterday and got these guys under like some type of severe investigation.
And I'll talk to you about one of those too, and then we can move on from this subject if you guys want. Although I could talk about this all day, to be honest. So another person, DMs us and says, "I think you should be wiped off the face of this planet," basically. And so, once again, this person. Oh, then he finished it off. "Make America Great Again." Once again. These people are always incredibly public. Like, I was able to see everybody in this person's family. Their Instagram account was open. I was able to see where they worked. All their information is out there for everybody to see. So I picked up the phone and I called up the company where he worked for, which was some sort of steel company in Arkansas or something like that. And so I call up. And, they sound a little confused when I'm speaking with them. And I said, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I want to read you this statement from that one of your employees sent me. I want you to know, you tell me, does this align with the values of your company?" And I read it to them and they were like, "Oh, well, what was the name of the person that you said?" And they hesitated for a little bit and then told me that this person actually did not work for them. Now, I later found out that this was a complete and total lie, that the HR department actually lied to us about him not working for them. So, then, I end up contacting the person's wife, I believe it's his wife, on Instagram, and I sent him the message, and I said, "Hey, do you think this is okay, for people to be sending messages like this to me and my family? This is sent by your husband. Do you think this is an okay way to speak to somebody? I'm just genuinely curious." And then I get a whole message back. "Oh my gosh, he would never say that. He would never do that.
Was he hacked?
He said he was hacked. He doesn't even use social media. His account must have been hacked. Oh no, you can't do this. I can't believe it." And I said, once again, I don't believe you, but listen, I'm going to give him a chance to apologize to me. And, I'm happy to call back up and say that we're all good. If I get an apology, I will stand down. She goes, "But he didn't do this and da 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 da. Can I please have your number? He wants to talk to you. His company wants to talk to you. We have a 5-month-old kid. I can't afford to lose my job. He can't afford to lose his job. Da 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 da." I go, "Okay, here's my phone number. Let's chat about this." And so the guy calls me a little while later and we speak, and he goes, "Yeah, so I just want to let you know that, I didn't send that message. Am I a Trump supporter? You're damn right I'm a Trump supporter, but I didn't." I'm like, okay. Once again, you clearly sent the message. Nobody hacked into your random account so that they could send me a death threat. That just is not what happens. And everybody who I contacted, there wasn't a mass hacking this weekend over the last 48 hours.
I think people need stronger passwords. Is one of the lessons I've learned from this.
Stop making your password or 1 2 3 4 5 6.
Seriously, when backed into the corner, we don't run like these losers. We don't run like these pathetic people. No, we fight back.
So here's the thing. Let me tie it all together. These right-wing extremists are in an echo chamber of lies, of fraud, of fear. Okay. And it's created by the Fox Newses of the world, the Dan Baginos of the world, the
and Shapiro's
Steve
of the
Bannon's
world.
of the world. They've literally created, how people talk about a metaverse is being created. It's literally its own
the metaverse.
It's really its own verse.
The MAGAverse.
The MAGAverse.
Yeah, it's their own language where Gazpacho is a thing and the January and legitimate political discourse is January 6th, and it's a fake world that they live in. And what they're doing, what Fox News, what they're intentionally doing is otherizing people who do not share their fascistic views, which at the end of the day is just to enrich an oligarchy, a billionaire class of people like Rupert Murdoch and others in this country. And so what they do, how they paint, whether it's AOC, whether it's us, whether it's a Soros,
Hillary Clinton,
Hillary Clinton, as cockroaches. Like we're dehumanized is what Fox News is ultimately doing. And they're creating these lies out there. And there are people, 60, 70 million people in the country that believe that. Where we have to counter that, though, is look, as you said, Jordy, we'll push back. We'll be in the arena. We'll fight it. But we should never be distracted. Okay? What we have to be focused on is hope, is love, is optimism, because ultimately that's what will advance our country. That's what will advance the people of this world. You know, we're not living, you know, you dip your toes in this world of stoolies. It's scary. It's not scary because I'm afraid of it. It's scary that these people are harboring such paranoia. Mm-hmm. They're harboring such anger, and they walk around this country so desperate, so anger, so spiteful. Their views, these men's views about women are so atrocious, and they carry this with them every single day, these seething, angry people. But MeidasTouch, we're providing hope at the end of the day. We're not living in that world. We don't live in that echo chamber. We got to call out that echo chamber. This podcast is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I love my Athletic Greens, giving me the energy and purpose I need. Jordy, you made the comment before as I was getting on and I stood up. You were like, Ben, yeah, you are just shredding the weight off right there. Huh?
I don't know if that was my exact verbiage, but yeah, man, you look really damn good.
It was your exact verbiage. With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, your recovery, your focus. It helps with aging, all things. You just take a scoop of that green, delicious AG1 powder. You put it in the cup. You shake up the cup. You drink it. You are good for the day. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. This is for you. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and guess what? It's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's received thousands and thousands of 5-star reviews, and its creator, like me, its founder, was experiencing these gut health issues. He ended up spending like $100 a day before finding Athletic Greens, and Athletic Greens did the trick. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into the flu and cold season. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do, visit athleticgreens.com/Meidas. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/Meidas to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. And I would also be remiss before we bring in Jaime Harrison if I didn't mention our other sponsor, Blinkist. I love Blinkist. This is all about empowering people in 2022, and we want to focus on how you can empower yourself. And the way you do that, the way I do that, is I read and listen to Blinkist, which basically breaks down these books, like some of my favorite nonfiction books. For example, The 5-Second Rule, The 5 a.m. Club, 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. And you read these things rather than having to read the whole book. The Blinkist breaks down for you the book, the key specific takeaway points from it. And so from the 5-second rule, I knew how to motivate myself, how to get up in the morning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom. I'm ready for the day. The 5 a.m. club, the way it would break it down for me, you got to start your day early. What you do from those hours from 5 to 6 a.m., could be revolutionary and change your day. You get in that workout, you get in that you time to think, you meditate a little, and I promise you, you will be on a day and a track and have those small gains that make big gains. I learned all of that from Blinkist. Right now, Blinkist has a special offer just for our audience. You go to Blinkist.com/Meidas and you start your free 7-day trial and get 25% off a Blinkist premium membership. That's Blinkist. Blinkist, Blinkist.com/Meidas to get 25% off and a 7-day free trial. Blinkist.com/Meidas, and check out some other great books. Fire and Fury, Fear, A Short History of Brexit. The list really goes on, and you'll get the key points. You don't even have to read the full book. You'll be as if you read the full book. So go to Blinkist.com/Meidas. Now, I am so happy to have Jaime Harrison on the podcast. We're going to introduce him in a second, though. But to have Jaime Harrison on right now with everything that's going on, with the Republican National Committee calling the January 6th legitimate political discourse. Wow. I think we have to ask Jaime as well, though, what are these weird rumors going around? I think Jaime's a fighter, and Jaime's done more with the DNC right now than I think anyone in that position in the past, period. He's the perfect person leading what we need right now. And I feel good. I feel great about the 2022 midterms. Great about the 2022 midterms. And let me just give you my analysis before calling in Jaime. Here's the confluence of factors that's happening in 2022, right? We have the January 6th committee. We're going to talk more about that on the other side of the Jaime Harrison interview, though. We're learning about Trump eating documents, but the January 6th committee's seriously, he's eating documents instead of shredding them.
The crazy thing is you made a joke about this last episode. You're like, what is Trump doing now? Is he eating the documents? Is he whatever? And I was like, no, he's not eating the documents. He's ripping them up. But it turned out, in fact,
what they do in the MAGAverse, man.
Eating them with gazpacho. More talking about that. But January 6th committee. The economy is doing great. The inflation has pretty much peaked at this point, and inflation's getting better. The economy's strong. The stock market is strong. Biden's created more jobs than any president like in history, period. Biden has created more jobs, and we're doing real innovative things, like the federal government's coming up with its own cryptocurrency to stabilize crypto markets, like real structural, just unique, interesting things that I think is going to further fuel the economy. Here's what we also have happening. The Supreme Court is going to either overturn Roe v. Wade or it's going to uphold Mississippi's 15-week ban on abortions. That is going to be horrible. Americans don't agree with that ruling, this radicalized extremist court. But this is going to mobilize voters, okay? And the confluence of what the Supreme Court's going to do, what's going on with January 6th committee, with a strong economy, and we are turning the corner on COVID. Even states, the Democratic states, as the numbers are getting much better, as we're getting on this other side of Omicron, mask mandates are going away. We're following the science, and the science is working. So to me, all those factors together are what's critical here and why Democrats are going to end in the redistricting. Democrats are winning the redistricting right now. And if anything, it may be a draw. Democrats may win, but more about that later. But now let's bring on chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Jaime Harrison. Welcome to the pod.
Hello. It's so good seeing you guys again. Thank you for having me on.
Great having you. So you staying safe from the gazpacho? Lots of gazpacho being thrown around in DC.
So much gazpacho. Good grief, man. Does she not have staff to just edit? And I'm being kind. I mean, listen, that was just dumb. I mean, between her and Cawthorn, I just don't understand. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
I like that. But I'll tell you what about Cawthorn. He made a very compelling case for why he should be ousted. Like, he knew the exact talking points of why he shouldn't be there. And when he was saying that on the news, I was like, you know what? Great point. You should get the hell out of there right now. You are a traitorous human being.
Well, and he doesn't represent his constituents. He doesn't do anything to benefit the people in North Carolina. And I hope they give him the golden ticket to Mar-a-Lago so he can, be with his dear leader, and they can all sip margaritas or something. Send Ted Cruz down there too. I mean, they all need to go. It is a caucus. The Republican conference has become, it's like a gang of juvenile delinquents. And it led by a feckless, no backbone leader in McCarthy. And it's just sad.
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about, though, the Republican National Committee, though. The words I think will ring.
Rona.
I think it will ring in infamy, though, those words. Legitimate political discourse. And this was in the censure motion, a resolution that the Republican National Committee passed. This is just for people knowing outside. This is a formal document with whereas clauses that has the seal of the Republican National Committee, which says, whereas Representatives Cheney and Kinzinger are participating in a persecution of ordinary citizens engaged in legitimate political discourse referring to January 6th. Chairman, what's your response?
You know, when you think that you've heard it all in politics, and then you see what Rona and her gang of folks at the RNC created, you have to shake your head. I mean, let's think about January 6th and what it was, right? We saw hundreds of the Capitol Police and the DC police that were beaten, that were maced, that were beaten with the American flags, that had fire extinguishers thrown at them, that they were crushed in doors. We saw the windows broken. We saw furniture destroyed. We saw feces spread over the walls of the United States Capitol. We saw nooses hung up where they said, hang Mike Pence, who was a vice president of the United States, go after the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, and to have power, because we see what they will do with it. You know, I've been very clear for months now, and I've called the party of Lincoln is no more. The party of Trump is a party that is built on fear, on fraud, and fascism. And that's what it is. I mean, they send fake electors to Washington, D.C. to try to steal an election. They try to gin up fear. Oh, they're going to defund the police. Oh, CRT. We can't teach Black history. And all the while they're trying to steal elections. I mean, this is sad. It is a sad state. And this is why people have to understand. You better go vote, because your life depends on it. Democracy. The way that we live our lives now in this country depends on this vote in November. And so a lot is at stake, and you cannot give the Cawthorns and the Marjorie Taylor Greens gavels over important committees that really have an impact on how we live our lives in this country.
The one thing I would add, Jamie, to the fear, fascism, and fraud, though, is that they're very weak, because when confronted as well by their own words, legitimate political discourse, you saw reporters trying to ask Kevin McCarthy the other day, and he literally ran. He sprinted away. Did you see that?
I saw that. He was running sprints. I mean, and it's just sad. I mean, listen, McCarthy has to be one of the weakest leaders I have ever seen grace the United States Capitol. I mean, the guy has no baggage. This is a guy who was picking through Starburst or something for the president of the United States, trying to find those pink ones because the president likes them, right? This is a guy crying about Dr. Seuss. And oh my God, we can't even read Dr. Seuss. Well, I can buy you a damn book of Dr. Seuss if you will agree to not be in Congress anymore. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And we America deserves so much better.
You have to give him credit for one thing. It's hard to run that fast without a spine.
That's exactly right. You're right. He was the slipping over the floors, I guess.
But Chairman, there's a clear contrast that we see, though, between the Republicans claiming a terrorist act is legitimate political discourse and things like the job numbers that we've seen. President Biden creating the most jobs of any president in history in terms of modernized nations recovering from COVID. Like, our economy is probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest in the world right now. And these have to do with Biden's policies themselves and what he's implemented. And this is despite all the obstruction taking place from the Republicans, where we could actually be if there wasn't that obstruction. So how do we communicate that to the American people? Also, though, that the Democrats are working for the people.
Yeah. Well, and Democrats are delivering for the people, and that's part of our message going into this midterm. I think part of what we have to do, and the president has acknowledged this, is that we have to get out across this country as we are starting to work our way out of COVID to make sure that we sell the president's agenda. We need to make sure that people understand that when they see these bridges that are being rebuilt and roads being paved, when we see the broadband that is coming into their communities, who actually was responsible for getting that done? Now, there are some Republicans who are trying to lay claim, even though they voted no, and we're going to make sure that people understand that they didn't vote for the bill. If you voted no, then you cannot take the credit for it, right? There's no vote, no credit. So we're going to make that plain. Through TV, through radio, through having truth squads go to some of these groundbreakings to just make sure that the newspapers cover it rightly, that these people didn't vote for these things. But it's also important to note that many of the things that we are enjoying now, kids are back in school. 95% of schools are open now. And you know why they're open? They're open because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Democrats in the House and the Senate voted in the American Rescue Plan in order to fund schools and make sure that they had the resources to open up because of COVID. So when Omicron slammed the country, instead of having the impact that we saw with Trump and we had to close the schools, we were able to keep schools open because they were equipped with the resources and the testing and the mask and everything in order to keep themselves and the students and the teachers safe. And so there's a lot to be proud of. The president's working very, very hard to continue to address these issues. The COVID virus is not an easy thing to tackle, but you know what? America's doing a better job of tackling than any other country in the world. And we will continue to move forward because of the great policies and leadership that we got in Joe Biden and Democrats in the House and the Senate.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that leadership, and I want to talk the energy that Democrats have right now. I think a lot of people were concerned a few months ago, or at least much more concerned a few months ago than they were now. And then recent stories showed that the DNC, and I think this is really all credit to your leadership here, had a record fundraising haul. Could you tell us just a little bit about that?
Well, and I want folks to understand the context of this. The DNC has raised more last year than any other sort of, going into a midterm election in the DNC's history. And we did that still dealing with COVID, right? So a lot of haters and all the folks want to talk. Well, folks, the facts remain that there's money in the bank, and we're putting that money into voter protection. We're putting that money into organizers on the ground. We're putting that money into building a stronger Democratic Party in every one of our states, going back to a 57 states and territory strategy. So I am so proud of the work that our team has been doing. And folks, a lot of this money is coming from our small dollar donors. It's the grandma and the grandpas and the aunts and the uncles that are giving $5 and $10 and $20 in order to support this president, to support this party and the agenda that we have to build back better. So I'm very, very proud of that and proud of what we're building, but we still have much more to go because the Republicans are raising right at the same level in which we are. And so we cannot let up. We got to redouble our efforts. We got to push harder. We're putting more people on the ground. I'm so proud of the voter protection program that we have. For the first time in almost 30 years, the DNC's back in the voter registration programs that we're building. We're reaching out to all of our communities, but again, there's so much work left to be done. but I'm very, very proud of what we have done so far.
It's really incredible, Jamie, and just total props to you. But you brought up the haters, so I think I'd love to give you an opportunity to address the haters head on, because NBC News ran a piece a few weeks ago, which I'm sure you're aware of. It said DNC Chair Jaime Harrison has considered an early exit amid White House tension. Any truth to that story?
I ain't
whatsoever?
going anywhere. I am going to the White House probably next week, but I'm not going anywhere. I enjoy a very great relationship, and always had a great relationship with then Vice President Biden and now President Biden. I mean, when I was chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party, the vice president probably attended 4. We're a red state. Everybody doesn't give us a chance, but Joe Biden would come to South Carolina and be with us anytime we asked him. He came down probably 4 or 5 times to help with fundraisers for our state party, because he believes in a 50-state strategy. He believes that you cannot just cede any territory to Republicans. And if he can help a state, then he's going to do that. And he has given me the green light as chair of the DNC to make sure that we continue to have that type of philosophy for every one of our state parties. So, that's how we came up with the $23 million that is going and dedicated to state parties right now. That's how we came up with the Red State Fund, which is a special fund, a pot of money that we have set aside for red states to help them compete more in this midterm election. So I'm proud of what we've been able to do. I'm proud of my friendship and partnership with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, who I also adore, and she's been right there helping every step of the way. So in the end of the day, we're going to continue to push. Again, I'm not leaving anywhere. I'm dedicated to making this party as strong as we possibly can.
Sounds like the dream team to me, Jamie.
Yep.
Next thing I wanted to discuss is, we could have all the money in the world, but I think what the right is very good at is spreading disinformation on the internet.
Yes.
I mean, we've been victims of that. A lot of Democrats have been victims of that. We've seen it most recently with this crack pipe story that spread rapidly around the internet. Does the DNC have a unit to combat that, where like within an hour after a story starts catching on, they could go, lie, this is why, here's the truth?
We do have a disinformation team at the DNC, and it's sad that you have to have that, but you do. Mm-hmm. Because the only thing that the Republican, again, fear, fraud, and fascism, that's what they're all about. And it's about fear, and they will lie. If Ronna McDaniel's opening her mouth, she is a lie is falling out. I mean, I think if she's typing something, then she's typing a lie. That's all that they can do, because they can't stand in the truth. And so our disinformation team also is working behind the scenes to push back with the various mediums and platforms to say, this is not the truth. And we're asking them to either pull those things down or to correct them or to flag them as disinformation. And we've been able and been successful at doing just that. And in our comms team, it's working behind the scenes all the time with reporters and all, making sure that they have the facts. And then when you have Jen Psaki, who's at the White House, I mean, and her constant Psaki bombs, there's nobody better at just setting some of the media straight, particularly some of our friends over at some networks that I won't even call their name, just to make sure that they put out the truth.
Well, Jamie, do you we came up with Psaki bomb, yeah?
Oh, I didn't know you guys did that.
Oh yeah.
Look at there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you guys are always adding something new to the lexicon.
I gotta love it. Jordy has a few for you, but I know everyone's gonna be like, let Jordy speak.
Every time, Jamie. Every time.
Jordy, you're my man.
I appreciate you, Jamie. I appreciate you.
I just got one more because you brought up the network that shall not be named.
Yes.
I was wondering, do you think there is value in more Democrats going on the network that shall not be named, which is Fox News and other networks like that? I know Pete Buttigieg, whenever he goes on,
was the best.
He crushes
every time.
So what's your opinion in general about getting more Democratic voices on there?
Well, we should, to push back against all of the noise that we get from that side, and and the whole fair and balanced thing. Come on now, again, like seriously, like really, are you kidding me? Come on. because there ain't nothing fair or balanced about it. But nonetheless, I think it's important that we push back in all meetings. As I said, that we can't cede any territory in terms of states, but we can also not cede territory as it relates to going into the lion's den and pushing back against some of the disinformation and lies that they tell some of the folks that are watching. It's really important that we do that.
And Jamie, I just want to go back really quickly to the amazing jobs report that came out a few weeks ago. Overwhelmingly a positive thing for the American people, yet the Republicans seemed upset by it. Why are Republicans rooting against Americans?
Rooting against Americans. Did you see, Jordy, when the report came out, I think Ducey and some of the others before, they had this whole thing go, oh, it's going to be really bad. And they're going to talk about Build Back Better and everything else. And then I just wanted to be like a fly in the wall or the fly on Mike Pence's head to see that moment when the numbers were released and like, it's just sad to see a network like that is rooting against this country coming back from probably the worst thing of our lifetime in terms of dealing with this pandemic. But nonetheless, Joe Biden persists, and he's going to continue to fight and push to make sure that America gets back on track. And so, right now it's addressing the inflation issues and making sure that we address those things. But it also is to continue to push on the Build Back Better agenda. I mean, think about how it would help families right now if they had childcare relief. That would be a game changer for so many families. If they had relief on prescription drug costs, a game changer for families. And so what I want to see our Democrats do, put those bills, which are extremely popular, put those bills on the floor and have the Republicans vote them down.
Jamie, I have a question just on that. Sorry to interrupt you. I just had
go
one.
Ahead.
So my question just is really a tactical one, because exactly what you said with those bills. One of the things that I've always just wondered is we always package these as a big Build Back Better kind of omnibus that has all of these elements. Is there a utility, and could the Democrats just do one-off childcare, and just push that through quickly? Or is there like a timing issue? Like, how come it's always packaged as these big bills versus just getting one-offs that we know will be W's, wins right away?
Yeah. Well, Ben, the big part on that is I wish we could pull all of them apart, because I think then you can actually get the benefit of passing them and talking about them in their own light. When you think about the American Rescue Plan and all of the things that were a part of it, it was so big that people still don't know all of the good things that they were able to get out of that plan. The problem we have is the structure of the Senate, the 50-50 Senate. The only way that you can get past the filibuster in the Senate, one of the few ways, is reconciliation. And the reconciliation process forces you to have one bill so that you put all of these things into, so that you can then bypass the filibuster, because otherwise you have to deal with McConnell and the Republicans who want to hold that up. So that's the reason why. Otherwise, we would have passed them on an individual basis. But because of the filibuster, reconciliation is one of the only ways that we could have gotten a big package of things together and got it through the United States Senate.
And Jamie, before I was rudely interrupted by my older brother, Ben, what I was going to say is I feel like the tide is shifting in a positive way again for Democrats. The base feels energized again, like we saw back in 2019, 2020. What do you think? Where do you think it's going here for Democrats in 2022? How are we looking?
Well, listen, I feel really, really good. I'm going to I feel better once we have a nominee for the Supreme Court. I think that's going to be a galvanizing thing for a lot of Democrats to continue to make history here. We made a history with the first African-American woman vice president, and now an African-American woman on the Supreme Court. And that's going to be a big deal. And then, we have some issues that I think will mobilize us coming forward, again, trying to get the president's agenda through, but, also seeing what the Supreme Court is going to do on some major issues that will have an impact on the lives of people across this country, particularly, issues like affirmative action and women's rights to control their own body. And so those are going to be big galvanizing issues for us. And we know where the Republicans stand on those issues. They've been pushing this far right agenda to take away, again, we talk about fascism, take away the rights of individuals and particularly minority groups in this country. And so those are going to be mobilizing issues for us. And in the end of the day, I want people to understand this. The pundits say, well, in the midterms, the party in power loses the control of the House and Senate. Folks, bottom line of this is this. In 2020, 80 million of us came out to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and only 70 some odd million for Donald Trump. If everybody who voted last time votes again this time, then who gives a damn what the pundits say? We're going to win control of the House back. We're going to win control back of the Senate. We'll add a few seats to the United States Senate because I know we will. Now, you look at redistricting, that process, we are faring better than I had hoped in the redistricting process, which gives us more hope. In the end of the day, folks, we have to come out and vote. That's the bottom line. So don't allow the Republicans to say, well, they have more enthusiasm or whatever. We know what we will get if the Republicans take control of the House or they take control of the Senate. We have already seen such progress being made in just 1 year of this administration. So let's continue that progress. Let's continue moving forward. And if we get Democrats back in the House and the Senate, there'll be a lot more things, positive things that we have going forward in this nation.
Jaime Harrison, we appreciate you coming on the MeidasTouch podcast. As always, firing up Democrats, firing up people who love democracy. I mean, to me, that's what it's about when you think about it, Jaime. At this point, we have one political party, major political party in the Democrats that really supports democracy, that roots for the United States of America. And you have another political party out there and the Ronna McDaniels and people like that who are rooting against the United States of America. I think the choice is very simple, and you made it
it's a very clear choice, a very clear choice. Again, you got the party of fraud, fear, and fascism, and you got the party of hope, party that believes that all of America's people deserve to be able to live the American dream. And so that we have to keep fighting for that each and every day. I believe that America is strong enough for all of us, not just for a select few, but for all of us. And that's the theme. That is the mission. That is the core value of the Democratic Party. It's sad just to see the devolution of the party on the other side.
We appreciate you, Jaime Harrison.
Thank
Jaime
you.
Harrison, chairman of the Democratic National Committee. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, fellas.
Jaime Harrison, huh?
Jaime Harrison.
Jaime Harrison.
Jaime
Fiery
Harrison.
Jaime Harrison, ready to go, ready to win in 2022.
Jaime
That's
Harrison
what I like
is
to see.
not backing down. I love that fight. He gets a lot of crap on the Twitterverse here and there. And honestly, never really for any good reasons at all. Never for any good reasons. But he just puts his head down. He does the work. And the proof is in the pudding, as they say.
No, it was a great interview with him. And I think a lot of important points that he had hit on. So just talking about some things that are in the news too right now, though, the Trump deleting the documents is really heating up in a story. So there's kind of two stories, three maybe stories, kind of all intersecting.
Did you say deleting? Deleting,
eating, tearing up documents contemporaneously. So there's one line of news that's breaking about that Trump would just tear and rip up things all the time. So that's kind of one. The next story that's been breaking is that after he left the office, he brought all of the items back with him to Mar-a-Lago, like just letters and classified information and
he looted the White
confidential
House.
information. You're not allowed to leave. And he stole the documents and brought them with him. And the National Archives had to refer the matter to the Department of Justice because it is a criminal matter. It's up for the Department of Justice to investigate it. But that's another strand of news that's out there. And then now we're also learning with breaking news that the call logs that Trump had on January 6th are all missing, apparently, or a lot of them are missing. And so the actual official records that Trump and the White House are supposed to keep of who he was calling that day, deleted, destroyed, no longer there. I mean, there's going to be a lot more news on that. But in the legal arena, we call that spoliation, which is in a criminal sense, we call that obstruction. And that's criminal, civil spoliation, criminal obstruction of justice. And it is very telling that this is taking place now as the January 6th committee is starting to really dig in and start getting laser focused that, all of the Trump documents and call logs are gone. This is Trump, though, who he is. He will throw other people under the bus. He's a coward. He will destroy and delete things. That's just who he is. But they're coming. They're coming with the truth right now. And Trump is scared, running away. And I'm telling you, there's a reason why you've seen a lot of Republicans speaking up now, maybe a lot, maybe meaning more than one. I shouldn't give them too much credit. And maybe like 5 of them, though, who have said it's absolutely an insurrection that took place. And it's horrible what happened.
It's such a delicious irony that one of the things that may bring down Trump are his handling of sensitive documents when he's the but her emails guy, the lock her up over her emails guy, the private server guy. And now it's coming out that, that bullshit story, which they made a big deal about, it's just coming out that now Trump is actually hiding these documents, tearing these documents up. And now we learned today that Trump was also ripping the documents up and putting them into the toilet and was clogging the White House toilets with the documents. Now, we've all heard Trump talk about toilets. He talks about toilets. I think the only person who speaks about toilets more than Donald Trump, I think, is George Costanza, for the Seinfeld fans out there. Trump loves talking about toilets. You got to flush 10 times. You got to flush 15 times. I don't know anybody who's ever had to flush the toilet 15 times. I don't know what Trump's doing in there, but now I think we're learning what Trump was doing in there. He was putting documents in the toilet. First, my questions here, I guess, would be, is that before or after he digested the documents? Because we know he was eating the documents. These questions have to be asked.
Here's the thing, though. It of course he was the butter emails person, because at the end of the day, it's what we always say. It's all projection. It's all projection. Of course he's hiding his documents. I don't even understand what good that does to hide these confidential documents in 2022 or in 2020. Everything exists online. It's like, did he think that page of whatever he had was the only one that ever existed? Like, there are ways to actually find these documents other than just the single sheet of paper that he may have been ripped up and threw into the toilet or ate.
And Jordy, that's a great point, and you're 100% right, because that's how that they discovered a lot of this. They discovered that the phone records were missing because they actually have the phone records from other people. So they saw that when the White House submitted their phone records, that there were a lot of gaps in it. It's turning into, far more like Nixon and Watergate, just on a very, very, very much larger level, just on a way larger level. This thing is exploding wide open right now. But let's get back to Trump.
The most disgusting visual when you just said it's exploding wide open.
It's exploding into the, So with Trump in the toilet, I think the answer is both. If you want my hard-hitting analysis on the issue, I think Trump, probably clogged the toilets after he ate the documents, and I think he also ripped the documents up and put them in the toilet. That's my hard-hitting analysis. But at the core of this also, I just want to say, it's time for journalists to step up. Getting serious now. It's time for journalists to step up. If you have a story like this that is this serious, that's about somebody hiding information, that's about somebody obstructing justice at the highest levels of our government, it is your duty to report on it. It is your duty to make this front page headline news, the same way you made Hillary Clinton's news headline news, the same way you took over the front of the New York Times with that story. You need to make this story headline news. Enough of these reporters saving their scoops to sell books down the road. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. If you have information that's important to the national security of our country, to the future of our democracy, release it now. Release it now, because all you do when you release it through your books is you look like an opportunist, and you're not doing anything to help this country. You're only doing something to help yourself.
And you need to release it because this is the most important story of our day. Like, the big media has allowed, one of the reasons the Fox News has filled this void and New York Post, and they've created this echo chamber, though, is because the serious media is just not even reporting on the actual truthful destruction of our democracy that has taken place each and every day. I mean, this legitimate political discourse story should be front page news every single day. Every mainstream media, every news outlet should be running with this every second that the Republicans are calling this legitimate political discourse. And now that Trump is destroying records and eating records relating to an insurrection, and we should be talking about the insurrection every single day and those who support it every day. It's not just Monday's news on January 7th, right? This should be news every single day, while the right wing generates their bullshit fake stories where they try to basically go from M&M's one day, Mr. Potato Head. This week was MeidasTouch, and we'll talk about that after the quick break that we're about to take. But that's what we need to be doing, focusing back on the truth with real, robust media. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Relationships take work. A lot of us will drop anything to go help someone we care about. We'll go out of our way to treat other people well. But how often do we give ourselves the same treatment? So I signed up with BetterHelp when they became a sponsor several months ago. They basically help you find your own therapist. If for whatever reason that's not the good fit, they make it very easy for you to find someone else. This is professional therapy. This isn't self-help. It's available for everybody who's listening to this podcast. And it's made an important impact in my life, because when I do the workouts, and I joke to Jordy about all the stuff I do early in the morning, once a week, I like to set aside some time to speak to BetterHelp, and it's online therapy. So it makes it easier than me having to drive somewhere and wait in the waiting room, which is fine if that's what you like to do. But for me, being on the run and doing all the work that I'm doing, it makes it very easy and important to reflect on my mental health. BetterHelp is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Just give it a try. See why over 2 million people have used BetterHelp Online Therapy. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and MeidasTouch listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/Meidas. That's BetterHelp.com/Meidas. And Brett, you feeling like I've been hearing you having some good cereal lately?
I'm feeling a little magical over here. I'm feeling, you got to nourish your brain. You also got to nourish your stomach, guys. And it's the new year. Magic Spoon is perfect for meeting your goals, whether it's eating healthier or saving more time in your morning routine. Magic Spoon is so incredible for me because with MeidasTouch, we're so busy editing these videos all the time, and we're working, just burning the candle at both ends. So whether it's early in the morning and I need to get a head start on my day and I don't have time to do other things, I could eat a delicious bowl of Magic Spoon cereal. I know that I'm getting the nutrients I need to start my day. Or even if I want a midnight snack, Magic Spoon is a great way to meet those cravings and be healthy in the process. I mean, growing up, Jordy, cereal was one of the best parts of being a kid. We would love our cereals.
Love cereal.
Like we'd be a little too obsessed with cereals. But we had to give it up because we realized it was full of sugar and junk and all these things you shouldn't eat. We're all trying to eat better, but healthy breakfast doesn't have to be boring. Magic Spoon has the amazing flavors you love, but without all the bad stuff. And like I said, it's amazing as a midnight snack before bed, which I may even have it more as a midnight snack before bed than even as breakfast. I've been trying to cut down on carbs, sugar, unhealthy food, and realized that I basically can't eat anything anymore. But finally, I found this delicious way to get my protein before or after workouts or just any time during the day. Let me tell you these numbers because the numbers don't lie. 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net available flavors to build your very own custom bundle include cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, cinnamon cookies and cream, and maple waffle. I'm back to my original combination that I love so much, which is, you take a little bit of that cocoa, you mix it with a little bit of that peanut butter, you get a little peanut butter cup cereal. If you know what I mean, that's the pro move right there. So if you want to get started today, go to magicspoon.com/Meidas to grab a custom bundle of cereal and start your new year off right. And remember, be sure to use that promo code Meidas at checkout checkout to save $5 off your order. So listen to this. Magic Spoon, they're so confident in all this. They're so confident in their product. It's back with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. So remember to get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/Meidas and use the code Meidas to save $5 off. That's MEIDAS. Thank you so much, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring this episode.
The funny thing about this whole Joe Rogan controversy and the right wing's targeting of MeidasTouch as though we're behind it is we've repeatedly, even before this QAnon-ish account called Wokel tried to act like it was three Jewish brothers who were creating a cabal to control the media, and that we somehow are calling all of these musicians to start the boycott, and we're like coordinating all of these things, even though the videos that are at issue are from like 2019. They were created by Alex Jones, and that we have no part in creating the video, because an account that we are affiliated with, that we help with compliance, that they tweeted their own view that Joe Rogan should be terminated, which they have every right to do. And we have every right to say, as we have on our podcasts, you know, we don't cower from what our views are. It's one of the things at MeidasTouch. We took a view that was actually different than the view of a lot of our listeners weeks ago when the Joe Rogan thing started happening, which we repeated on our podcasts. We don't support a boycott of Spotify. Our show is on Spotify. We believe that the best way to deal with it is, one, we can criticize Joe Rogan when he makes statements about COVID that are resulting in the deaths of millions of Americans with his platform, or killing hundreds of thousands and millions of people around the world with his platform. It's one factor of a lot of factors. We're going to criticize it. It's our First Amendment right. It's not cancel culture for us to go after Joe Rogan and say that he's wrong in saying certain things. We're allowed to criticize him. He's allowed to criticize our show. Simple. But we've never called for a boycott of him.
And by the way, I want to be clear also, we're okay though if people do boycott. Like, our whole thing is let the First Amendment play out. If people want to boycott, if people want to criticize, they should be allowed to do that. If Spotify thinks that his show should stay on, then that's their right to do that. Then it's up to the free market at the end of the day to decide.
We want to have great content and our content win. You know, our show now, our podcast has been on for slightly over 1 year of existence in the current format. Okay. We have hundreds of thousands of people who listen and view the show. We'd like that to be a larger audience. We're going to compete with our content, with our entertaining nature, with our truth, and try to compete in that forum. But we're at the beginning of a journey. Rogan's been doing this for what, 12 years now? He started at podcasting really when podcasting was at its infancy, and it was like him, Corolla. You know, people didn't even know what podcasting really was at that time. But for this concerted effort, because these accounts were like, the three brothers are behind it, when we repeatedly said we weren't. But the echo chamber repeated itself. So now it gets to kind of Tucker Carlson. So it's just interesting watching how it all kind of maneuvers through, like the QAnon Wokel account with the crazy conspiracies. And then everyone kind of jumps on it and retweets it, even though they don't know who Wokel is. I mean, we asked Dave Portnoy on the show, do you know who the account is that you just retweet randomly? He's like, no. So, okay, well, no one knows what the account is.
Their deflection is, oh, well, we never said, you know, directly that they were responsible for orchestrating Neil Young and all these people. We just said that they popularized the video. We were one of like thousands of accounts to retweet this video.
And then their position changes when you actually have an intellectual conversation, or you try to engage. That, well, you amplified it. Well, the debate was never an amplify. Like, if I retweet something that's different than if it's like you're actually behind the this massive conspiracy.
Yeah, it's a much different thing where all of a sudden we're on Tucker Carlson show in the center of everything.
So we're on Tucker Carlson last night. So Tucker Carlson and a guest, which is like the
It's the quack doctor Robert Malone, who's literally not allowed like on any social media services, like because he spread so much COVID disinformation. The people on the right say that he is the inventor of the vaccines, actually, and he says not to take the vaccines. And this is the guy. A lot of people. He looks kind of like the Dos Equis man.
He looks like the Dos Equis man.
He looks like the most uninteresting person.
Yeah,
in the world.
he's the most uninteresting person in the world. For all you legal AF listeners, he looks like the Bizarro Popak a little bit too, just anti-Popakian views. Just a really.
I think he looks like Popak, but I do think like he looks like the Bizarro World version. A lot of Seinfeld references in this episode. The Bizarro World version of the most interesting man in the world, but he is the least interesting man in the world. And when we play this clip of him on Tucker, where he once again repeats this claim that we were behind this whole orchestrated effort to take down Joe Rogan, you will see why we say that. Should we just play the clip now and talk to you? We'll talk about it on the other side.
And it comes out apparently that the group that made this little attack cropped clip that resulted in Joe's second hostage video on Facebook, fascinating. First one was on Instagram. I go to Facebook. Was this left-wing super PAC that is Midas Light or
MeidasTouch.
Yeah, MeidasTouch, with a misspelling of Midas as if it was media. And
last name.
Apparently they want to have his head on the wall because it's going to help them with future fundraising. And it has nothing to do with vaccines. It has nothing to do with me and Peter McCullough. And the proof of that in the pudding is if they really cared about the vaccine story, then they would have hit Bobby, who also has a Spotify channel. But nothing. This was about taking out Rogan.
Real big brain on.
But there's every aspect of it because literally you criticized Bobby, right? Like you
literally, we actually used him as a thing. And when they say Bobby, just so our listeners and viewers are clear, they're talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is one of the biggest purveyors of COVID disinformation out there, incredibly anti-vax guy who we criticized, and who's actually, been very liberal and supports a lot of very liberal causes. He's been an example who we've used as somebody who we've criticized over this issue. But the fact is, here's the difference. Bobby Kennedy is not being paid $100 million by Spotify to be on Spotify. That's the difference. It's that Spotify wants to be both the platform and the publisher.
But we do criticize Bobby. Like, we have criticized him.
Exactly. Exactly. But the reason why people are accusing, why they're talking about, why Spotify comes into the mix with it and they want them to take Joe Rogan off the platform, the reason that comes into the mix is because Spotify is paying for the content. I mean, that's...
But here's the other thing.
One thing. This is why Fox News isn't news. This is why Tucker Carlson isn't news. Everything in that clip was false. That was broadcasted on their network. Midas Light.
I love the name
Midas Light. Midas. We'll get into Midas Light in one second. MeidasTouch ran with this Joe Rogan. We orchestrated the Joe Rogan boycott. False.
We made the video.
We made the video. False.
And they always go this Hollywood super, like the terms they use are just, they're like the most hot button kind of conspiracy terms that they love to use. Like if you watch a lot of these videos, they go, and listen, these Hollywood brothers from Hollywood with the editor who worked for Ellen and Kaepernick and the cabal and George Soros money. It's like, dude, I wish we had the kind of money that you were talking about. I mean, you're giving. And
I wish we had the impact. It would be quite if we were able to do all of this stuff. Like I would. By the way, it'd be kind of badass.
I'd be the first to go. Fuck yeah, we orchestrated that. Hell yeah, hell yeah, we orchestrated that. But I mean, we show all of our other efforts on the planet when we fly the Loser Palooza plane over Trump.
We don't go. I gotta pause you for a second because our significant others are in their own kind of chat room. And that they talk about some of the stuff. And I was looking at it the other day and they were like, they're really giving the brothers like way too much credit.
I like how we went from like the criticism went from MeidasTouch has no impact at all to MeidasTouch is the leader of the entire Democratic cabal against Joe Rogan.
Because we retweeted one
video.
We retweeted a video.
like
we literally retweeted a video we retweeted a video, and then everyone, it's beyond the funniest. Like, it's really the silliest.
You know what
fucking thing.
my wife said the other day? She goes, everyone keeps calling you guys trust fund kids. She's like, I wish you had a trust fund. She's like, I wish you didn't work 80 hours a week and that we each didn't have to have jobs to support our family and our home and our expenses. She goes, do you have a trust fund I don't know about? Because please,
the trust fund that we're unaware of would be very nice.
What a plot twist that would be. Oh my God.
Come on, Mom. Come on, Dad.
Going back real quick, guys, Midas Light. I think we just found we found a new merch product. Yeah.
Midas Light.
Light.
Here's what we'll do, Jordy.
What do we got?
Okay. So what do we got for Midas Light? You tell us. You're the merch guy. So
all right. What do you want to do for Midas Light? You want to come up with a design on the spot right now?
Spoiler alert. We have the design. We have the shirt. Select few. We're selling them right now. Get your Midas Light gear today. Brett, pull it up.
Hey, it's Midas Light. It says, stay mighty. Stay mighty. Strong statement. Stay mighty. But here's what we need to do though as podcast.
Wait, I just want to be clear. That's available right now on our website. So go to store.MeidasTouch.com.
Oh yeah, I'm not kidding.
Don't gloss over the Midas Light merch. This is a real thing. Get your limited edition Midas Light gear. Thank you, Tucker Carlson, for your support of our entity here.
I think we're going to do probably just one run of these. So get them today because we may be taking them down after a few and get them while supplies last. But what we do try to do though is we try to uplift voices, and there's a ton of great podcasts out there. And I always like to dedicate a portion of the show to recommending a podcast that I love for our listeners and viewers to watch. And the one that I love is called The Lost Debate. And whenever you look for news, you may feel forced to choose between echo chambers in the mainstream media and conspiracy obsessed alternative media. You know what we're talking about now. That's why you should check out The Lost Debate. It's a podcast and YouTube show for political eclectics like me who want to escape their media bubbles and engage in good faith with ideas from across the political spectrum. The Lost Debate is hosted by Ravi Gupta, a former staffer for Obama and school principal who founded ARENA, an organization that has trained thousands of progressive staffers and helped elect hundreds of candidates. Corey Bradford, a progressive political organizer from the Deep South turned TikTok star who once hosted a Fox News radio show, and Ricky Schlott, a Gen Z New York Post columnist and libertarian fighting to protect free speech. They cover the latest news, ideas, and trends that mainstream media overlooks. Instead of being at each other's throats, they focus on bringing new perspectives to the table in constructive debates that sound less like crossfires and more like discussions between real people. Join the conversation. Check out The Lost Debate today. New episodes drop twice a week. All you got to do, search for The Lost Debate on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. I really love the Lost Debate podcast, and it's really what our mission is at the MeidasTouch Podcast and Meidas Media. We really want to have serious, real conversations. It's why when Portnoy called me out or whatever, I was like, yeah, I'll have a conversation right away. And I'm willing to have those types of conversations. What I probably wouldn't do on reflection, like I wouldn't go on a show that's controlled by a radical right extremist in their format. What I think I would always do though is a format that's neutral, a format that is like always, live, where both sides have a full recording of the conversation, where nothing could be edited. And I'm open to having those, conversations and having serious conversations. Like at the end of the day, people who watched that debate and who had the conversations, put it this way, when you have to put a meme up after that makes you look like a WWE wrestler, I'll tell you probably didn't win that debate if that's what you need to kind of pat yourself on the back right there. And most people who saw that appreciated the high level that we kept it. And those are the types of conversations that I do want to have with other people. I just want to
say this too, on that note, Republican right-wing radical right disinformation is powerful. And we spoke about this with Jaime Harrison on today's show. And we've seen it time and time and time again. Think to those clips of Joe Biden where they like edit 3 seconds of the clip, right? And they go, oh, Joe Biden says he's abandoning a COVID response. Oh, Joe Biden said, quote, when he was reading the stage directions. Oh, Joe Biden is giving away crack pipes across America.
A made up story. Another just totally made up fake story.
I'm just going to like have some hard talk for 1 second with our listeners and our viewers, because there are far too many of you who see GOP propaganda and you go, what is this? I can't believe this person said that. I can't believe this person did that. Joe Biden's doing what with crack pipes? MeidasTouch did what? MeidasTouch was responsible for Joe Rogan. We see this time and time again. And that's why we say these simple words. The Republican Party lies about everything. The Republican Party lies about everything. So anything that you hear that sounds like, that's not how I heard it, or I didn't hear anything about this until Ben Shapiro brought it up, or I didn't hear anything about this until Wokel brought it up, or Don Jr. made a post about it. Let's first look for the truth behind these statements. Let's not believe anything that they say on their side. Let's verify things before we go repeating it and before we start forming opinions based on people who we know are bad actors and have a history of releasing deceptive content and of straight out making things up.
Agree with Brett every step of the way. We appreciate you for joining us on the MeidasTouch podcast today, the top political podcast in the country and the world. Special thanks to our guest, Democratic National Committee Chairman Jaime Harrison. Special thanks to our sponsors, Athletic Greens, BetterHelp, Blinkist, Magic Spoon. Use those codes, Meidas. Check out our podcast recommendation, The Lost Debate. We will see you next time on the MeidasTouch podcast. And make sure you get your Meidas Light Stay Mighty shirts that Jordy has spent some time creating. Jordy, take us out.
Store.MeidasTouch.com. Shout out to the Meidas Mighty!